Chapter 2. Europe Goes to War, 1939 to 1940. Introduction. During its first 2 years, World War II was not a global conflict. To many historians, it was the continuation of World War I, the culmination of the 19th century struggle for mastery of Europe. In this phase of the war, Germany was the ascendant, with the Allies led by Britain and France suffering repeated political and military setbacks. Early days. On September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland and Britain and France declared war on Germany. The speed of Hitler's conquest of Poland caught the world by surprise. In less than a month, the Polish army had been destroyed, and under the terms of the Nazi-Soviet pact signed in August, Poland was divided between Germany and the USSR. After the fall of Poland, there was an extended lull in military activity, popularly known as the Phony War. France and Britain took up positions along the Franco-German border but remained on the defensive. During this period, the opposing armies were stationed in the trenches in a manner reminiscent of the 1914 to 1918 conflict. In the air, activity was restricted to occasional bombing forays and the mass dropping of propaganda leaflets. Only at sea was the war conducted in earnest. The British Royal Navy rounded up and destroyed German naval and merchant vessels, while the German Kriegsmarine launched a U-boat campaign against British shipping. Under the terms of its secret agreements with Nazi Germany, the USSR not only gained dominion over eastern Poland, but also over the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Stalin wanted Finland to cede territory close to Leningrad, St. Petersburg. When this was refused, the USSR invaded Finland. In the war that followed, the USSR achieved victory before the Allies could deploy help for Finland. In April 1940, German forces seized Denmark and then invaded Norway. Although the British and French sent troops to support the Norwegians, they were unable to prevent the German conquest. Continental Europe falls. While the fighting in Norway was still ongoing, Hitler launched his great offensive in the west. On May 4, 1940, German troops swept into Holland and Belgium. Unprepared for mobile warfare, the Dutch were soon overwhelmed and forced to accept surrender terms. Meanwhile, Germany's armored divisions, panzer divisions, threaded their way through the Ardennes in Belgium to smash the French defenses on the Meuse River. From there, they headed into the English Channel, where they established a corridor that cut the Allied armies in two. Outflanked and facing disaster, the British fell back toward the port of Dunkirk to prepare for evacuation, leaving the French in an increasingly desperate position, exacerbated by the surrender of the Belgians on May 28th. The Germans now turned south to deal with the remainder of the French army, which was attempting to establish a new line to protect Paris and the French interior. On June 5th, the Germans sliced through the French defenses. Paris fell on the 14th, and on the 22nd, Marshal Philippe Pétain, the newly installed French Prime Minister, signed an armistice with the Germans. Within a space of 6 weeks, Hitler had defeated France and forced the British army to retreat to England. Attacks on Britain. Hitler assumed Britain would reach terms with Germany. When his offers of peace were rebuffed, he told his generals to prepare to invade Japan. Their first priority was to gain air supremacy over southern England. Between July and September 1940, Britain's Royal Air Force engaged and defeated the Luftwaffe in a series of aerial engagements called the Battle of Britain. Without air supremacy, Hitler's invasion plan was abandoned, and the Luftwaffe redirected its aircraft to the wholesale bombing of London and other British cities. The ensuing campaign, dubbed the Blitz, lasted until April 1941. Although it caused heavy casualties to Britain's civilian population, it did not change the overall strategic situation. Britain remained safe from the threat of German invasion. The failure to knock Britain out of the war could come back to haunt Hitler, but at the time he could take consolation in a series of stunning victories that made him master of continental Europe. The extent of his power stretched from the English Channel to the Soviet border, and it was the USSR that would become his next target.